Hey guys, this is CS Joseph, and this is Season 18, Episode 14, Cognitive Mechanics, also known as the first reflection. Um, this has been a very interesting episode, probably a little bit controversial. Typically, for Season 18, what I like to do is I have the preference to do these for members every month, which we already did this episode for members basically, but this is effectively a reshoot, right? And it was necessary to do the reshoot. There's a lot of camera shake, a lot of interesting antics that made the show end up being like 2 hours and 15 minutes. So the team and I felt it was kind of necessary to actually do a reshoot, and since we already shot it for the members, we're like, you know what? This is what's supposed to be sent out for like emails, uh, once a month. So we'll just do this particular episode in a public manner. So that's kind of what we're doing. So this is like not normal, and when it comes to season 18, this probably won't happen again. So this is kind of like a one-time deal, like a one-time thing. So if you want to have the opportunity, oh, looks like having some stream issues here. Hopefully the stream doesn't break on me, because that would suck a lot. Let's see here. Am I having some drop frames? A little bit. I'm going to kind of exit out of certain applications to give myself some more bandwidth here. Let's try that. Let's close a bunch of things down. Let's see. All right, cool. Hopefully that helps. We're going to quit that, I'm going to quit that. Yeah, I really hope this works. So, but anyway, okay, cool. So far, so good. At least I imagine that works well enough. So yeah. Anyway, wanted to have the opportunity to get this lecture out, but had to reshoot it. So I want to apologize to the members that did actually watch this, and it was insanely long, etc. But that's okay. I prepared a more condensed and precise outline for the specific content because this content is quite different than what we've typically talked about before. So it's kind of an interesting, approach. Okay, thank you for pointing out my SE Demon hat. I had no idea a Seahawks hat was SE Demon, but fair enough. Yeah, sure, Lorenzo. It's all good. But anywho, greetings from Seattle. I'm in my Airbnb from Seattle right now and brought my streaming gear, and hopefully the internet connection actually holds up to this end. That would be nice. That'd be really nice. So yeah. But anywho, if you folks want to make sure that you're getting season 18, make sure you're signed up at csjoseph.live/typegrid, or you've taken in your test and put in an actual valid email address, because that means you're on our email list. And if you're on our email list, that means you will receive season 18 lectures or whatever private lecture that we're doing for that particular season for that month. It'll just be emailed to you to a private link and whatnot, and you get to review it, which is pretty awesome if you think about it. So, and so yeah, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Logical perspective, just give credit to where it needs to be given. That's all there is to it. You can do whatever you want. Okay, so awesome. So let's actually dive into this lecture here. This lecture is based on Dr. John Beebe's book, Energies and Patterns of Psychological. Just that book yet. What are you doing with your life? If you actually care about Jungian analytical psychology, then you're gonna want to actually read that book. It's actually pretty short as well. Pretty nice. I know that Dr. John Beebe claims to be an INTJ, and other people claim that he is an INTJ, but given his approach, I think, with what he's saying, I kind of have to disagree, especially with like his writing style. It's very like, this happened to me, I said this. It's very first person, whereas INTJs, when they write, they're very second person what they write. But like, that's just one particular example among many. I've actually met him in person, really cool guy. But I liken him to be a lot closer to Carl Jung in just how he thinks about things. And it's my personal opinion that Dr. John Beebe is like the second coming of Carl Jung. Quite frankly, that's kind of how I see him. So, but within energies and patterns of psychological type, he talked about a concept known as mirror functions, right? Mirror functions. Well, I'll be honest. Yes, I renamed them to reflector functions. And the reason why is because we already talk about cognitive mirroring here within the CSJ community, about how, like, for example, an INFJ or an ESTP or Templar types, which are STP, NFJ types, they talk about mirroring often. And, and that's really important from that point of view. Mirroring is what they do. Like, they'll take on the behaviors of other people when they're around them, and then when those other sources of behavior are gone, they'll stop behaving that way, essentially. And that's kind of basically what that means. That literally is what that means. That's where that comes from, etc. But that is not basically how I would describe mirror functions work. So this is the first episode of 4 episodes that are going to be diving into mirror functions according to Dr. John Beebe, but we're going to be, keeping to the CSJ nomenclature by doing so, and by calling it reflector functions. So this is basically the first reflection, or the first cognitive reflection, and we're going to be analyzing the relationship between extroverted thinking and extroverted feeling for this particular episode, which means every single one of the types are represented within this episode and the next 3 episodes after this episode, to be able to gain this type of understanding. So just keeping you guys aware of how that works. Yes, Romaine, it is a reshoot because there's way too much chaos in the other. That's correct. And besides, you might have like an opportunity to ask some other questions. So, but yeah, the members already had their opportunity to be on the show and watch the show and the crazy antics we had, but doing a reshoot, and it's going to be a little bit more condensed instead of like all over the place. Carl Gustav Jung is an INTP. No, I'm going to stick to this specific episode, folks. Try not to distract me too much because there's a lot of content to go over for this particular episode. So let's get down to it, okay? So yeah, if you want to get a copy of Energies and Patterns of Psychological Type and you would like to support us, you can do that via our affiliate links at csjoseph.life/reading. So please check that out. Also, one thing about reflector functions that most people don't even consider, or that they are unaware of, is that if you watch this episode and the next 3 episodes, you can get a general understanding of how reflector functions work and reflection relationships between the cognitive functions. You'll start to see how basically attributes of the type grid ends up coming out. You'll be able to basically see how certain cognitive functions directly contribute to affiliative behavior or pragmatic behavior, etc., or systematic behavior versus interest-based behavior. And you'll be able to come to a better understanding of why certain aspects or attributes of behavior are attached to the type grid if you're going through the type grid and checking that out. Which is pretty nice. It's nice to be able to have that point of view and be able to understand specifically how the type grid is structured in a general way, just from the perspective of reflector functions. Now, granted, we've talked about cognitive axis, we've talked about cognitive synchronicity, cognitive asynchronicity, although I'm still talking about cognitive asynchronicity. We still have 2 episodes left of that small season, and that season's over. And we've also heavily explored cognitive orbit within the context of season 18, which please check it out. Now, if you have missed some episodes of season 18, and because you weren't on our email list or something, or you unsubscribed from our email list, and then you ended up missing some episodes of season 18, you can actually watch every episode of season 18 as a member at csjoseph.life/members. Just become a journeyman member, and you'll be able to do that. Also, by the way, like for those of you that think that coaching is a little bit too high priced and whatnot, well, you can hire Jay Ackley, and he just recently put up a video, and he's got a lot more videos coming out very soon. You can hire Jay Ackley at a reduced rate, and if you want, you can also just like do like our installment plan, which is just Acolyte, which is the next level above Journeyman, so that you can like just pay a fee per month. You end up accruing coaching credits over time, and then you can turn in those coaching credits for whichever coach that you want, etc. And there you go. So just throwing that out there in case someone was confused about that. So anyway, knowing reflector functions really helps you better interpret some of the behavioral attributes that are assigned to the type grid. And again, if you want to get a copy of the type grid, csjoseph.life/type grid, just put in your email, boom, you get the type grid, and then you're going to be emailed one of these lectures every month. So like that's a thing. So cool. All right. So yeah, it will be, Emily J, it will be an interesting lecture. So awesome. Cool. So let's keep going. All right, so the first cognitive reflection, extroverted thinking versus extroverted feeling. So 11 minutes, 30 seconds in is kind of basically when the lecture starts. But anyway, so what is the point of reflector functions? What are the reflector functions? What's their purpose? And it's basically to draw out the cognitive attitudes and extend the various energies that are being exchanged amongst the cognitive attitudes with all the other functions. We heavily explored cognitive attitudes within season 16 playlist here on this YouTube channel. If you haven't watched that yet, it's one of the most important seasons to watch, just to kind of get a better understanding of how things work, etc. And so I really hope you guys watch that. And knowing how the cognitive attitudes already are in their basic form, you can kind of see the reflector function of these next 4 episodes as an expansion or an appendix to what we've already talked about in season 16. So this is kind of going to be going even deeper than we have before. But before I begin, I have to immediately go to a fantastic example using Harry Potter, basically. And it's specific to Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is book 5 or movie 5 out there for those of you who can there. And Harry Potter, and yes, I will spoil it, and I don't care because if you haven't watched the movie or read the book by now, that's on you and therefore not my problem. So get over yourself, just so you know. But reality is Harry Potter, the character, has to find something like a specific prophecy that was created by a professor at Hogwarts about him, etc. And this prophecy, what's contained within the prophecy, actually explains, in essence, how reflector functions work. And I found it very fantastic. And it goes down like this. It's talking about how, neither Harry nor Voldemort, or it says, quote, neither can live while the other survives, right? So you want to see your reflector functions all having a particular relationship with one another. Kind of like how you have cognitive axis, where your hero function is linked to your inferior function, your parent is linked to your child function, your nemesis is linked to your demon function, your critic function is linked to your trickster function. Or you can look at cognitive orbit, where you have the hero connected to the nemesis, you have the parent connected to the critic, the child connected to the trickster, the inferior connected to the demon as well. Those are examples of cognitive orbit, and all of those are important from to that point, from that standpoint. But Reflector functions have a completely different set of relationships. And the set of relationship that they have is that the hero function is connected to the demon. The parent function is connected to the trickster. The child function is connected to the critic. And the inferior function is connected to the nemesis. This is basically a third set of connections, or back doors or front doors, as you will, doors to different cognitive functions based on the position within your ego and your unconscious, right? And later in the lecture, we're going to be talking about how, Carl Jung made the statement about, how, it's important that, we go out of our way in life to make our unconscious conscious. And we're going to be explaining why that is, as a result of this lecture, and where that comes from and how that matters and why it manifests. This is it. We're going to be discussing that right here and now. So, anyway, with that being said, here's another interpretation, and this comes from the Kentucky Fried Sage, because my mentor, my INFJ mentor, we always referred to him as the Kentucky Fried Sage, and he always would say, Chase, there's always a little bit of the demon in the hero. There's always a little bit of the demon in the hero, and basically what he's talking about is Dr. John Beebe's mirror functions, but and we're renaming it to reflector functions to keep our nomenclature consistent and less confusing for people, because a lot of the psychological community use synonymous terms on a regular basis, so it kind of is what it is, but I'm trying to make it less confusing for folks. But yes, there's a little bit of the demon in the hero. So let's actually discuss that. So the first reflection is extroverted thinking as linked to extroverted feeling, and it has a lot of different links to do that. So let's actually review how that looks visually. So I have the trusty whiteboard from forever ago. Hope you guys remember the Target whiteboard. Wow, it's really horrible. Oh, and by the way, I started running out of ink with the dry erase marker today. So yeah, the actual marker that came with it, it finally just decided to die today. But yeah, so yes, the first reflection. So there's a lot of information here. Now these basically demonstrates how these are linked. You have the hero/warrior, which is the immature versus the mature form of the hero attitude, and then you have the teenager versus the parent, which is immature, mature. You have the child versus the divine, or where your divinity is, and then you have the infant, also known as the tyrant, right, or the inferior. It's a tyrant compared to actual royalty. That's where the whole Return of the King meme or trope comes from. You have the nemesis versus the ally, which is the immature, mature form. Then you have the senile old critic, old man, versus the wise critic or old man. Then you have the trickster versus the master, and naturally the demon as the angel. But if you look over here, you can see how all these functions are actually linked together. So for example, you have extroverted thinking, which is up here, which is linked to extroverted feeling, or extroverted feeling is linked to extroverted thinking at the bottom. And then the next link is the parent is linked to the trickster, the child is linked to the critic, and the inferior is linked to the nemesis and the ally. And what this does is this creates something known as battlegrounds. And I cannot take credit for the battlegrounds, because the battlegrounds that our very own Chris Taylor within the CSJ community seem to have come up with. Holy smokes, I just realized my headset might die. That sucks. That's okay, I have a spare battery for it, so we'll see how it goes. Let's see how long this lasts. But the point is that he discusses something known as the battleground functions, and the battlegrounds basically are so for example, you have the hero connected to the demon, and that's the battleground of titans, for example, because they're both titans. They have a lot of power, and they have competition. Think about it this, the four sides of your mind is like a house, right? And each side of your mind is a room within the house. It's like a 4-bedroom house, basically. And the demon is well, crap, the hero is my roommate. And the super ego is crap, the ego is my roommate, and I have to make peace with them. And the hero can overpower me and put me in my box, but I'm like a person too, right? So what about me? And I got to live with them. So yeah, I'll make peace while I can, but then every now and then the hero is going to be like bogged down and overwhelmed, and then that means I can come out of my room and start wreaking havoc, etc. It's the same kind of concept. Well, that's one way that reflector functions actually come out, because it can actually demonstrate or create a lot of negative or destructive behavior within a human being, in as much as it can also, through maturing and growing, for example, lead to a lot of mature behavior instead of immature behavior, a lot of constructive behavior, basically, as a result of these cognitive reflectors, right? And so it's important to keep track of that. It's important to know, like, where you are, because if you know where you are on this, you can kind of see areas of development that you would need within your life. And we discuss a little bit about this within the context of season 19. If you want to get access to season 19, all you have to do is just take the test, and then you'll be sent to like one of you'll be sent to the page with the results, and you could buy for like $37 the 2 private lectures and all of the public lectures for that type in that place, etc. All in one place, and you can have access to it for your type. But then it will like send you to like an upsell page where you can get all of them for an insanely reduced rate, so you get like all 16. And this is where you go to csjoseph.life/portal, and you can see all of the different Discover XYZ type. All of those contain individual season 19 episodes, as well as the first 8 season 14 relationship episodes, all in one place. And those episodes really help demonstrate, a person's path towards personal growth, etc. And that's important. That's very important. The difference is, though, is that while that really focuses on cognitive gateways and being able to develop the individual 4 sides of your mind, you really want to also pay more attention to the granular approach of reflector functions, because reflector functions will give you kind of more of an individual localized pathway for self-development. So you can be a little bit more focused about it and recognize some of the other internal issues that may be happening. Because while it's great to eventually master all 4 sides of your mind and reach integration and enlightenment, the thing is that will not occur unless you get a better handle on your reflector functions, as a result. This is all, very necessary, etc. So yeah, that's a thing. Okay. Yes, hello everybody who are joining. Let's see some more likes. You got 88 users, but like not very many likes, and I just might like get up and decide to go to the bathroom. And if you want to prevent that from happening, then just give me some more likes, please. That would be nice. So moving on. So when you're talking about let's look at like let's go a little bit deeper on the individual reflectors, like from an attitude point of view. Obviously, TE, FE, you have the first reflection, but then you have the hero versus the warrior, which can turn into the demonic hero, or it can turn into the angelic hero, which angelic hero is kind of more closer to the warrior. And then you have the teen versus parent, so you have the foolish teenager or the masterful teenager, etc. Or you have the inner child, which can be like the divine child, and you can end up having a senile child or a wise child, etc. It's kind of like that young man that talks, or the little kid that is super wise all of a sudden, that no one like even thought that child would like have such wisdom. This is exemplified within like King Solomon. It's also exemplified with the young man as described in the book of Job as well. Those are some examples of really, really young, super wise children, etc. And then there's also like the infant versus the royalty, which could be like the high chair tyrant or the allied king, etc. And then there's the nemesis ally approach, which would be like the infantile nemesis versus the royal ally, basically. Or there's the senile / wise critic, which could be like the childish critic or the divine critic, etc., which is more of the version of the wise critic, etc. Plus, then you have the trickster versus the master. So like this would be like the foolish teenager or the responsible, masterful, parent, etc., or the responsible, the responsible master, basically. And then there's obviously the demon versus the angel, which would have the heroic demon or the warrior demon, and the warrior demon would be actually be more angelic, essentially. A warrior angel, also like the archangel, essentially, was probably be more appropriate with the nomenclature there. So all these levels of reflectors within cognitive attitudes are absolutely necessary, and you have to kind of understand how these reflectors within your cognitive attitudes, within your 8 attitudes, like these, etc. Going in through these 8 different attitudes, all extremely necessary to know, so you can kind of help measure your own personal growth, or where you are as a human being, etc. So it's definitely a thing. So yeah, okay, and but anyway, as you can see, like, the energies that each of these cognitive attitudes have between this hero versus warrior spectrum, or this demon versus angel spectrum, they're exchanging energy with one another. They're exchanging energy with each other constantly. They're exchanging energy through cognitive axis. They're exchanging energy through cognitive orbit, which is what we talked about earlier in the season. They're exchanging energy through externally, through cognitive synchronicity and cognitive asynchronicity. So those two are external. These two are internal, which is axis and orbit, and a third internal exchange of energy is actually coming through, of these cognitive attitudes, is coming through reflector functions. So, that's just kind of how it works. That's how energy is exchanged between you and your cognitive functions, etc., to that end. Need more likes, folks. I gotta have some more likes, please. So yeah. And Awesome Raka is here because he first, suggested that I actually look into this. And by the way, like the 5th episode talking about reflector functions, he's going to be coming on and doing a show with me where he's going to be explaining the battlegrounds a little bit more. So hopefully he can keep doing that for us, and he is able to give that presentation, because I'm very much looking forward to that and interviewing on that. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, thanks for the branding shout out there, bro, because like I didn't want to confuse people since we talk about mirroring with Templar types, so I had to I literally consulted my favorite dinosaur doing this. If you guys don't know, my favorite dinosaur is Thesaurus, hashtag dad joke, right? Right? I mean, I do have an infant right now, so like, hashtag dad joke. So, okay, if you have to ask why I need the likes, please, Google that. Please. Just please. All right, but anyway, the bottom line is like there's multiple ways that cognitive functions can borrow each other's energy. Sometimes they spin on an axis, or they float on an orbit, etc. Or sometimes they're just uniquely plugged together and they're just right there, ready to go with that energy exchange, etc. So in general, this is kind of like the direction, of development within the cognitive attitudes in relation to each other, with the direction of how they're linked through reflection. So like, for example, FE is a reflection of TE and vice versa. TI is a reflection of FI and vice versa. NI is a reflection of SI and vice versa. NE is a reflection of SE and vice versa. So these functions are also exchanging energy with one another, and this energy is passing through the barrier between what is conscious and unconscious, what is your ego versus what is your your shadow, essentially. And this really maximizing this energy exchange, even in some cases even a destructive way, but mostly preferably towards a constructive way. Maximizing this energy exchange is what will really help you develop your functions and get them more, away from the hero approach to their cognitive attitude and closer to the warrior approach, or the demon approach to their cognitive attitude, more closer to the angelic. Or as we say, via cognitive transition or cognitive gateways, the expedient route to the more meaningful route, or the chaotic route versus the more orderly route. That's why we're talking about this, because it's that important for the sake of your personal growth. It's absolutely critical. So, yeah. Thank you, Dio, for explaining to people. Awesome. Okay. So anyway, uh, but let's actually provide some specific examples as to how these functions actually work and how this energy is being exchanged, right? So let's talk about the destructive reflections first. So the destructive reflections of extroverted thinking versus extroverted feeling, where they're either both immature or they don't match their cognitive development, or one of them is mature versus one of them immature, etc. But they are incomplete. They are not complete within their journey towards maturity, or their journey towards development, or their journey towards enlightenment, or their journey towards being more meaningful and less expedient, etc. However way you want to describe it, it doesn't matter. It's all the same anyway, symbologically speaking, from an expert intuition standpoint. But yeah, let's give an example of what extroverted thinking hero looks like compared to extroverted feeling demon, right? So, like for example, quote, "If you follow my plan, then you're human." Wow, you guys don't follow the plan that I made, so you obviously don't care then, so I will just treat you like a number. You're only human to me if you follow your plan. So this is something that we consistently see amongst extroverted thinking heroes on a regular basis. How often are ESTJs and ENTJs both accused of treating people like numbers, right? How often do we see that? We see it all the time. It's because, FE Demon just doesn't really give a damn about how other people feel, and as a result of that, it's usually because they've been conditioned over time, because they like to make all these amazing plans. Well, they end up treating people like machinery as a result, and it's because, only a machine could actually follow their plan or their procedure that their extroverted thinking utilized, because TE Hero is very systematic. So this is an example of a reflector function group, which is TE Hero to FE Demon. You already know that this grouping is systematic. So this is an example of how cognitive functions show on the type grid how something is systematic, right? Just like how FE Hero to TE Demon, guess what? All FE Heroes are affiliative. That's an example of how something can be affiliative or should be affiliative, or why it's affiliative on the type grid, right? Literally right here, we could see this right now, okay? So yeah, like, TE Hero is all about, making these plans, and the problem is that the more immature the TE Hero is, then, well, guess what? Their plans aren't actually going to account or have the accountability for human beings. They're really just going to end up treating people like numbers or machines or like cattle, which is really frustrating. And this is oftentimes why, immature or young or underdeveloped TE heroes end up getting a bad rap or bad reputation or bad status with other people, because they just come off so uncaring. And it's because they're putting all of their desire and all of their faith into the system or their plan, where they're putting their plan above humans, which is not really an effective way to go. And it's so interesting because you can see this all the time with people like Jeff Bezos or Tim Cook, because they're both TE heroes, for example. It's extremely common with them and with how they approach it. You gotta watch out, because they're putting function over form. They're putting the system above the people, and that can be a problem, right? So, and then we have, the FE Hero versus TE Demon, which is just as effed up, let's be honest. So, quote, "Only my opinion here matters." The only opinion in the room amongst all these people here, the only opinion that matters is mine, because I care the most, because I go out of my way to care about everybody else. Therefore, you have to listen to me. You have to listen to my opinion. My opinion matters the most. You only have status because I helped you build that status, right? And this is kind of where you can see that FE Hero entitlement, and that TE Demon all of a sudden just doesn't give a damn about anyone else's status, anyone else's reputation. Anytime, and this is why they're TI inferior if they feel like they're not being listened to, even though they expect everybody else to listen to them, and even though they will not listen to anyone else, is because of their TE Demon not caring about anyone else's opinion or anyone else's status or anyone else's reputation except for their own, because they see themselves as entitled to it, because they're the one who goes out of their way to help everybody else. Thank you, FE Heroes, for being so entitled. Thank you for that. Great. And you elected guy, you folks don't even ask for help, which is also really frustrating because you not asking for help continually puts you in the position of helper, but then when you help people, you destroy everyone else's voice and put your own voice on a pedestal for everyone else to see. And then you expect everyone to listen to it because you're the most caring person who is present. Wow. This is why people in California, those women in California, those ENFJ, ESFJ women in California who constantly talk about asserting their grandparent rights. Wow. And will take their own children to court over how their children are raising their grandchildren, and they will destroy the reputation of these new parents, these children of theirs, in favor of asserting their TE demon grandparent rights. Wow, that's effective. Wow. Oh my gosh, it's so annoying. I hate it. I literally hate it. Stop doing it. Just stop. Okay. Yeah. And then of course we have TE teenager, like TE parent, versus extroverted feeling trickster. Okay, this is the next level down. So we've just gotten done with the hero and demon destructive reflections. Let's go down to the parent versus trickster reflections. Here we go. Here it is. Quote, anything goes, or anything can be normal. Okay, so let's talk about that. So in INTJ, they have FE trickster, and because they're FE trickster, they are accepting of literally anything. Anything can be acceptable, right? Well, it's kind of the same with an ISTJ, right? The ISTJ is affiliative. So for them, it's more like, well, anything can be normal, or anything can be normalized. We could just create this random tradition, and it's normalized, and the bottom line is that FE tricksters, they accept anything and everything, but they shouldn't. Anything is acceptable. So TE rules are created that end up lacking principles and don't even follow social norms. They don't even have to follow social norms. And then they make other people in their lives that are closest to them live by those rules, even though those rules have absolutely no social backing whatsoever, because anything goes, or anything can be normal. It's like, wow, that's like super destructive. Like, really? Come on, TE parents, really? What the hell are you doing? How do you think you're going to be dignified or have like an actual status or reputation among people when you constantly have this anything goes or anything can be normal attitude, and then you enforce that attitude on other people? Because you know what happens when you do that to other people? You are making them and keeping them ignorant. Because of your ignorance of social norms, you are creating rules and standards based on that ignorance that cause other people around you to be stupid, cause other people around you to become ignorant or make them more ignorant. This is what happens with a destructive reflection of extroverted thinking parent versus extroverted feeling trickster. What the hell? What are you doing? It's when your parent is being a teenager, not a parent. Unbelievable. Literally unbelievable. You're literally like a teenage mom, who like is loose with her ethics and her social norms and breaking social norms by getting pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Teen mom. And then all of a sudden like pretending that you have these rules over your child, even though you broke the social norm of getting a teenage pregnancy to begin with. Thank you very much, TE parents, for this. Thank you very much for contributing that to society. That's fantastic. Or we can look at the extroverted feeling teenager, aka parent, right? And their TE trickster. Quote, I'm just going to listen to everyone without any filter, which makes FE parent create and enforce social norms that are worthless and irresponsible. And then I'm going to force everyone in my life to live by those social norms. Yay! Wow. Even though, like, you're literally listening to anyone. It's just like how my ex-girlfriend is like, hey, wear this crystal, it has superpowers. And I'm like, wow, who did you listen to tell you that, for you to come to that conclusion? Have you even bothered to verify that? No, you're just going to adopt other people's beliefs and then force other people around you to live by those beliefs that you randomly adopted, even though you never actually verified them. Thank you very much, FE parent and TE trickster. Thank you for destroying my life. for subjecting me to, church dogma without verifying it yourself. Thank you for, subjecting me to the cult of the family, the cult of the church, the cult of the community. You want to know which of the cognitive functions are the most cultish? Those are FE parents, folks. FE parents. FE parents. Consistently. Consistently. This is a serious problem. Okay? Like, literally. That's where it's from. It's so interesting because ENPs are often accused of creating cults, etc., and having those maniacal evil cults. But the reality of the situation is, folks, it's actually the FE parents. They're just not so easy to spot. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of see Jesus doing it with the disciples. So TE child versus extroverted feeling critic. You need to think about this because I deserve it and I am helpful. And because I've been helpful to you, you need to think about these things. You need to listen to me and my opinion. Because I helped you, that automatically means my opinion is valuable. Yay! You need to think about these rules, because this is what I value. And they're like, well, wait a minute. What about what other people value? Hold on. Okay, thank you, TE child. Thank you. Why are you making the claim that you deserve something, and because you deserve all that because you have credit, you're giving yourself credit. You give yourself credit because you're helpful, and so that means your credibility is based on your level of helpfulness, the amount of effort you put into helping other people, and that's where you credit. So you're admitting that you're actually transactional. You're admitting that you only help people so that you can be more credible, so that you have enough street cred to have a voice to use whenever you want, so you can grandstand whenever you want. TE child, wow, thank you. That's effective. That's amazing. Like, come on, really? Really? Or then there's FE child versus TE critic. This is me. This is me. Where it's like, hey, I care about these people so much that I'm willing to publicly shame them. Or I'm going to expose others for their stupid, right? So they stop being stupid and stop harming other people. And I'm just going to use that as my justification to expose other people and publicly shame them whenever I want to, and absolutely destroy their status and their reputation whenever I want to without any consequence whatsoever, right? It's be like, hey, because my FE child, wants to protect people from harm, and because I'm protecting from people from harm, I have full-on justification to harm other people. Like, wow, great, just great. Like seriously. Okay, drop frames are still holding. Hopefully we can get through the stream. Apologize for the stupid here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, a little bit buffering, but it should hopefully come back. Oh, nope, stream has gone down again. This is like insanely annoying. Let's see here. Alright, supposedly I'm back now. Who knows? We'll actually see. Supposedly it is coming back. And I hit a button to take a photo of myself. Great. Randomly. That's nice. Okay. Someone remind me of where I left off, please. Let's see here. Type something. That's so annoying. I hate how that crap happens. Let's see here. Advanced settings. Let's see here. I hate this junk. There we go. Just make that go away. Awesome. Yes, I am back. Cool. Sure. Alright, cool. Yay, it's back. About damn time. Alright. Something about the FE parent. That's where I was off. Okay. So I left off at the FE parent. Okay. So, oh, T critic and FE child. Okay, yeah. Okay, so just to kind of refresh right where we left off. This is for me, Effie Child versus TE Critic. It's where like I give myself justification to publicly shame other people because I'm trying to prevent harm to other people because Effie Child cares about other people. The thing is that it doesn't realize or is aware that it's kind of foolish because it's like, oh, I'm going to stop these people from being harmed by harming these other people. Wait a minute. Isn't that like crazy how that works? And that's Effie Child. Effie Child will just basically all it does is shift harm. It shifts blame even. It's just the blame shifter. That's all it does. It just shifts blame. It shifts harm. It shifts public shame. It shifts fear. It shifts all these negative things. That's what happens when this cognitive reflection between Effie Child and TE Critic are being destructive. It just gives itself the excuse to publicly shame anyone and expose other people for their stupid so that they stop being stupid and stop harming other people. But then that in of its own right could be considered harmful. You see what I'm saying? And then, of course, you go next to the, the inferior versus nemesis functions, which is also just pretty freaking crazy. Okay, so so then, like, extroverted thinking inferior versus extroverted feeling nemesis. It's like, quote, I have to take away your voice and make you look bad because your values don't match my values, right? And they're holding on to status kind of like sand, because it's extroverted thinking inferior, and they're holding real tightly to that sand, which is causing the sand to slip through their fingers, etc. And they're worried about other people being selfish, and they're also asking themselves, will people contribute to me? Other people might be selfish, and they may not give to me. They may not contribute to me. And then because of that, they decide to not go out. This is one of the reasons why TE inferiors are behind the scenes types. They're background types with their interaction style. Informative, responding, control, or informative responding outcome, etc. This is why. It's because extroverted thinking inferior is with their FE nemesis, and they're literally worried about other people caring about them. And then because of that, it's like, oh, I don't want to lose this precious status that I've already gained. But the thing is that they're not aware of the fact that their status is decaying, so they actually have to show up to keep their status. But they don't understand that. So then they just decide to withdraw and not be present whatsoever because they're worried about whether or not people will value their opinion or will even help them or contribute to them, basically. It's like it's really toxic. Here's another destructive approach. Extroverted feeling inferior versus extroverted thinking nemesis. I care enough that you shouldn't be thinking that about me. Gosh, you're stupid. Why do I bother helping you when you don't even take the time to listen to me? And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Did you inform the other person that you're only going to help them because they listen to you? Is that not transactional? Can you not see how transactional that is? Really? It's especially bad for ISTPs because they're interest-based. You see what I'm saying? So, folks, these are all examples, solid examples, as to why extroverted thinking or an extroverted feeling within these reflective functions can be extremely destructive, right? Destructive all the way through. So that's a problem, right? And it's really, really annoying. So yes, WebKelpie, it can shift focus from ourselves. Yes, it can. It is like the Effie Child is the ultimate blame thrower. It really, absolutely is. So then let's look at the constructive reflections of extroverted thinking versus extroverted feeling. So let's go back to the hero and the demon, or the warrior and the angel, essentially, or the archangel. So here's the constructive reflections. And if this is as if they're both mature or they have similar cognitive development on the mature side. And to be constructive with your cognitive, with your reflector functions via cognitive reflection, in order to be constructive, you have to instead lead with your unconscious reflector functions instead of your ego functions, making your unconscious conscious, right? Carl Jung has said this multiple times, and this is literally how you do it. This is how you make your unconscious conscious. It's when you make the conscious decision to lead with your reflector functions in your unconscious first before your ego. This is what people colloquially refer to as ego death, even though those people who talk about ego death don't actually know what the hell they're talking talking about, and I wish they would stop talking about that because it is the most annoying thing in the world and just absolutely triggers me every time I hear them talk about ego death. What they're actually saying is what Carl Jung is trying to teach everybody. Make your unconscious conscious. And this is literally how you do it, folks. This is the answer. And if you do this and you practice this, you will help yourself develop your ego, develop the four sides of your mind, and develop your personal development towards maturity instead of immaturity, towards the meaningful instead of what is expedient. For example, hashtag Jordan Peterson. This is literally how you do it. So let me give you some specific examples. Extroverted thinking warrior versus extroverted feeling angelic, or the angelic warrior, the archangel warrior. Quote, "These people have a very human approach. I can make a more human plan. Where the plan itself is made for humans instead of a machine. The plan is far more refined. It is because these, TE heroes are all of a sudden they are aware, they care, their FI inferior cares all of a sudden that a human is following their plan, that a human is following their procedure. Not a monkey, not a machine, not cattle, right? Is where they start treating people like human beings because they treat themselves like a human being, so maybe they should treat other people like human beings and stop treating people like numbers or cattle, etc. It's because whatever plans and processes that they make to keep track of all the tasks, keep track of the schedule, keep track of time, keep track of widgets, etc., always has like a percentage of it. It's very human centric. It's all focused on the human approach and the humans who will be conducting that procedure or conducting that plan, right? Or conducting that process, that extroverted thinking procedure. It's very human focused. It's not numbers focused. It's human focused. They're not so focused on how much profit they're going to extract from these humans. For example, really bad example came from a company in Seattle. I'm in Seattle right now, so it's very pertinent. Where the chief of operations or the chief of finance literally said, quote, "Okay, we're going to extract as much work and time and effort as we can from all of our employees, as much as we can, as much as possible. They're all on salary. We're going to work them, up to 60 hours a week, and then we're just going to hire managers to oversee them to keep them as productive as possible. We're going to extract as much productivity as we possibly can." This is the wrong attitude, and that is an example of this reflector combination of extroverted thinking hero and FE demon gone bad, when it needs to be extroverted thinking warrior and extroverted feeling angelic, because instead these people would realize that their workforce would be far more productive if their plans included room or space to allow these people to be human beings instead of cattle or numbers or monkeys or machines. It's not that hard. You ever hear about the saying, it's so easy a monkey could do it? This is where that comes from. This cognitive reflection, these reflector functions, is exactly where that saying comes from. That's why it exists, okay? All right, let's do the next one. Let's do the next version. Extroverted feeling warrior and TE angelic. So this is FE hero versus TE demon in the healthy constructive approach, right? An angelic warrior. Other people's opinions actually matter because the TE demon cares about asking someone's opinion to raise the standard of extroverted feeling care. Quote, "I could be more efficient or have a higher standard of care if I just ask other people their opinion before I execute said care, because that makes my care more efficient." Huh. Wait a minute. So the FE hero is admitting to themselves via humility that they could have a higher quality of care delivered to people that they're caring about. What if this person is a nurse? What if this FE hero is a nurse? Because they're first asking other people's opinions about how they could be more efficient about caring for other people, instead of just assuming with their TI inferior that they're already the best at caring and only their opinion of how to deliver said care matters the most. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. Okay, fair enough. So, not asking other people's opinions before caring reduces the quality of care, folks. Asking other people their opinion about how you would care before you do it is not the same as asking for help. This is one of the reasons why FE heroes don't ask for help ever, because it makes them feel worthless because of their FI nemesis. The thing is that asking somebody their opinion is not the same as asking for help. You're just literally having them share their opinion with you so you can be more efficient at helping, which is what you should be doing, which is the mature variant of this cognitive reflection. So make sure you do that. Okay? So seriously, make sure you do that. All right? And then let's get down to the parent function. This is extroverted thinking parent versus extroverted feeling master, right? This is the masterful parent. Finding out what other people value allows the extroverted thinking parent to be more responsible with the rules. For example, from Naruto, right? Naruto's master, Kakashi, right? And it's nice to have rules, but guess what? All rules are subjective. And allowing certain rules to be broken for the sake of other people is what this cognitive reflection in its constructive form is all about. So Kakashi had a lesson for his students, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, and he explained to them that those who disobey the rules are trash. They are scum. But those who abandon their friends or leave their friends behind are worse than scum. You see, there is a moral or an ethic that is behind the TE parent rules. And the ethic is, consider that people come first before your little rules. Your little rules may not actually matter before people matter, TE parent. So, for example, social norms obviously just don't matter that much, but have their basic social normal, which basically means do no harm. If you're an extroverted thinking parent and your rules are actually harming somebody, you're doing it wrong. You're being immature. You need to mature up, right, and recognize through cognitive reflection that maybe you should be focusing on do no harm with whatever rules or standards you actually create. This is why the Hippocratic Oath exists. It comes from extroverted thinking parent. The Hippocratic Oath is the best concrete example of how constructive this cognitive reflection actually can be between TE parent and extroverted feeling trickster, or when in its masterful form. Okay, remember, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends or leave their friends behind are worse than scum. Never forget the lesson of Kakashi, because that's where this comes from. All right. And then there's the FE parent version versus TE trickster, aka master, when it's being the masterful parent. Imagine TE trickster actually filtering out things so its ethical and social norms are accurate and valid, figuring out the right people to listen to instead of just listening to just about anyone, which opinions are the most valuable. Appearances are deceiving to TE tricksters because of the fake social proof like credentials and training and credibility, which is all fake and subjective, and they assume without verifying that those opinions are more valid. Oh, he's got a doctor and he has these credentials, so his opinion is more valid, so I can feel safer about taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Right. Okay. Sure. Did you actually spend time to verify? How do you know that? How do you know? How do you know that you can trust that person? How do you know? Because they have social proof? So you're making your little TI child decisions based on other people's social proof that you could see with your FE parent? How is that healthy? How is that constructive? Maybe you should spend more time verifying instead of relying on social proof for your decision-making, FE parents, you ISFJs and you INFJs out there. Because guess what? When you rely on social proof for your decision-makings, it makes you ignorant. Stop being ignorant. Stop relying on social proof. And instead, learn how to filter. Not everyone's voice matters. Not everyone's opinion matters. Why? Tell me, why do you think the heroin addict laying down on the side of the street and his opinion matters? Why do you think his opinion matters? It does not, FE parent. It doesn't. Stop giving him the time of day. Because when you do, you're enabling him. Stop enabling him. And because you're enabling him, you're enabling society. And you're enabling all those people who have social proof and who have credentials to actually have power. Stop doing that. It doesn't help anybody. Seriously. Stop doing it. And then extroverted thinking divine versus extroverted feeling wise. So this is T.E. Child versus F.E. Critic, also known as wise divinity. Paying attention to what other people value ahead of time instead of sharing your own beliefs. So seriously, like ENFPs and ESFPs, like no one cares about what you believe. No one cares. No one cares about your opinion. Find out if people actually care about the subject matter that your opinion relates to before actually sharing it. Exercise some patience for once. If you exercise some patience, you might be more constructive with this cognitive reflection. You might be closer to maturity and actually being meaningful, because then you would actually know that your TE child's opinion would actually be meaningful to be shared with at that moment in time, because you actually spent the time to find out if the other person actually values it or not ahead of time. You might want to do that. Like, seriously, you might actually be successful in your life. People might actually respect you. People might actually want to be around you or will be willing to stick around for you. People will actually love to hear your opinion or actually find it valuable, because you're trying to check what they value first before you share your values. It's not that hard. Like, be mature. Grow up. Grow up, TE child. Grow up. And then for me, oh yes, extroverted feeling child versus extroverted thinking critic, also known as extroverted feeling divine versus extroverted thinking wise, or the wise divinity. Guess what? I can be really harsh with every child and harm other people for their own good, like I said earlier. Sometimes I take on too much harm for the good of others or the good of the system, extroverted thinking critic, because it's the good of the system. And I see those rules over there, and I'm filtering out the lies so I can give people a better life. So the problem is that, like I said earlier, is that, I'm shifting blame, or I'm shifting harm from one group to another. The difference is that every child needs to learn to take all of the harm onto itself and learn how to become the pariah with its behavior and thus lead by example. Leading by example is the key. That way, you're not shifting blame anymore. That way, you're not shifting harm anymore. By leading by example, people will stop harming themselves and they'll start thinking about things differently, because you're able to protect them by shifting it towards yourself. Now, granted, you have to have self-respect and self-esteem and not obviously, sacrifice yourself for other people consistently. But the difference is that by leading by example with your own life, you can slay every freaking sacred cow that these people have within their life and affect massive change. You ESTPs and you ENTPs out there, stop being pussies and stop being afraid to lead by example. I don't care if you just freshly read a book. If you don't have the life experience to back up what you read in that book, then what you think is absolutely meaningless, and you're not going to help anybody. It doesn't matter if you offer them advice, Effie child. You actually don't know what you're talking about because you don't have the experience to back it up. So stop doing it. It doesn't make sense. Seriously, stop. You have to show people their sacred cows are as a result of their conditioning. And the only way to break their conditioning is if you break your conditioning first. Okay? That's how it is. Established social norms may not be healthy. And guess what? Every child knows this. And I slay these established social norms on a regular basis and take on the social fallout for your benefit and become the pariah for the sake of others. I break the rules or the chains that are on other people so others can be free, and I can hopefully finally be myself and actually be accepted, socially accepted as myself. But if I'm just shifting harm from one group to another, no one learns their lesson, right? Because it's like the blind leading the blind, or better yet, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. And there is no one more eye for an eye than TI parent. Trust me. Watch out for that. Where's the wisdom in that, folks? There is no wisdom in that. So Effie Childs, you need to seriously pay attention to this. Very important. So another example is how I often answer questions even though I don't get paid. So for example, I'm often accused personally of people on Reddit or wherever else that, I'm only in it for the money, I only care about money or whatever. no one knows the amount of hours and time that I put in pro bono for so many people within this community that I don't even charge. They'll ask me questions, and then I just have to like ignore people after a while because it can get pretty crazy. But there are people out there who have some serious needs. Like I've had some emergency calls sometimes. I've helped talk people out of suicide on a consistent basis because it was emergent. Like I have put in the volunteer work. I have done the pro bono aspect, and guess what? I consistently do it. It's just that, people often can take advantage of that. And then sometimes every child uses that taking advantage of victim mindset to shift blame and to shift harm from one group of people to another instead of actually living by example, which is something both ESTPs and ENTPs need to actually learn, because that is the wise approach. No one else is going to be freed unless those people can see FE child leading and living their life by example so that those people can be free too. Because those people will not take the shackles off of their bullshit established social norms or their bullshit rules and regulations and standards that they have. They're really poor standards until they see the TI parent, aka the FE child, leading in a completely different direction with their own life, with their own point of view. That's where it comes from, okay? Seriously. And then the inferior functions. Extroverted thinking inferior versus extroverted feeling nemesis, extroverted, which is also extroverted thinking royalty versus extroverted feeling ally, basically the masterful royalty. And basically this is when just TE inferior just decides, you know what, I'm just going to show up. I don't care if someone doesn't care about me or if they're going to contribute to me. I respect other people's values. And just because they don't match my values, it will not cause me to remain silent, and I still will share my conflicting opinion and my conflicting values. People get rewarded in public for what they have practiced for years in private. And you know what? I practice my opinion. I've read all these books. I've developed my own value system, and I'm not ashamed to share it. I don't care if other people don't value it or if people are not going to contribute to me, because I can contribute to myself. I'm strong enough to contribute to myself, and I'm strong enough to share my conflicting opinion regardless of the social or status or reputational fallout. Folks, if extroverted thinking inferiors would realize this, they'd realize that they would gain far more respect and far more status by sharing their conflicting opinions, because it sets them apart. When they don't say anything, they just look like everyone else. And then they don't have status, and their status decays over time. No shit. Maybe they should, fix that. And then the final one, extroverted feeling inferior versus extroverted thinking ally, for you ISTPs and INTPs out there, which is masterful royalty as well. When the student is ready, the master will appear. Okay? Verify what others know ahead of time before attempting to improve and teach them how to do something, or attempting to help them. Verify whether or not they actually need your help first before actually giving them help. Do you know how arrogant you come off when you just show up and you just start helping them even though they didn't ask it, or they actually know how to solve the problem themselves, but they're not doing it fast enough, or they're not doing it the right way that you think it needs to be done? Do you know how arrogant you come off that way? Do you think you're going to be wanted? Do you think people are going to stick around for you? They're not. They're going to abandon you, and they're not going to invite you to things. SE parent and NE parent. Pay attention. Verify. Find out what people know first before actually offering your help. It's that simple. Do it. And guess what? Your reflector functions will mature. Okay? Remember, folks, reflector functions enable each other. The immature enables the mature, but the mature does not enable. The mature provides accountability. Lead with your unconscious functions, with your reflector functions first, to develop your own personal maturity. Like Carl Jung said, in order for you to have a good life, in order for you to be the most advanced version of yourself, you have to make the unconscious conscious. It's very important because it will literally lead and direct the entire path of your life until you do this. Okay? It would be like, if you're doing this, if you're doing what is meaningful, not expedient, it's like TE trickster, filtering out things. Or like my daughter who has, TE child. If she's not enabling her TE child in her opinion, but she's trying to find out if other people would value her opinion before she shares it. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely incredible. Also, shout out to Chris Taylor for turning me on to this side of Dr. John Beebe's book, Energies and Patterns of Psychological Type. If you'd like to pick up a coffee and support this channel, please go to csjoseph.life/reading and click on our affiliate link. That would be fantastic. Also, shout out to Eric Bauer, who discussed the recent DNA-related discussion with the cognitive functions. I find that fascinating, and I think I'd like you as a guest on the show to actually discuss that in front of the audience. I think that would be great to do that. So if you could contact us at support@csjoseph.life to set that up, that would be great. So anyway, folks, this is the first reflection. These are the reflector functions of extroverted thinking versus extroverted feeling. And this is the end of season 18, episode 14. Now I will be happy to do a quick 10-minute Q&A session relating to the content of this particular episode if you would like. So go ahead and ask me these questions. So okay. INFP, study humanities at a mainly leftist university, and it's really hard to say my opinion, but I found people that respect me even though they don't agree with me in a lot of things. That's right, Estevan. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. It will help you reach maturity faster and thus happiness in life. So yeah, how do you ping people? I don't know what that means. Yeah, folks, like this is some of the stuff that we talk about in season 18. If you want to get it like emailed to you, csjoseph.life/typegrid, sign up for the type grid, put in your email, resubscribe to our email list if you are not on it anymore, or take our test, give us your email, and you could receive season 18 episodes like this for free in your mailbox every month. This just happens to be a reshoot, and that's why it's out right now in this format, but the next episode is not going to be public like this, so you might want to like pay attention to that. Why do ISFPs choose to be bachelors? Because ISFPs are worried about whether or not other people will value them. Okay. Can TE Master be achieved through great effort and trial and error? TE Master can be achieved through verification, just asking questions instead of assuming that you already know what the truth is. Okay. Fast track ways to developing SE Trickster. Try to actually perform and learn and practice. You have to practice, like focus on practicing as much as you can. Ashley Otto asks, how can an INFJ transcend their mercurial states of being and be more present in the now? Again, through practice. Expert sensing is all about practice. How to develop TE Trickster as an INFJ? Ask questions instead of making statements, Kitty Blossom. Can you say, guess who's back, waifu? Can you say a way to verify if it's possible to do an energy exchange between reflection functions instead of using an extroverted one in the middle of the way? I don't know what you're asking, and I don't think that's accurate. Shai GGS, how can we learn the art of language to share this with others without burning them to the ground? Not when you're on a rant, but in person you have the ability to do this and want that ability. Shy Gigi, look into the Socratic method. That would help. Okay. What should TE Trickster look for when they do filter people's opinion, advice, and thoughts? Instead of looking for social proof, look for other people who have actual experiences, who have actually done and followed that person's advice or that person's opinion. Look for the fruit. Look for the results. Look for the freaking outcome. That might help. How can INFPs overcome their selfishness? By being more helpful and offering help to other people. Okay. What do you think of the that's not relevant. So yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like that's it for questions, folks. Seems that the relevant questions have stopped. So thank you all for watching. It's been awesome, and I think I'll see you guys tonight. So I'll see you then. Oh, hold on, Stellar Memer. So if I hypothetically read books like The Rational Male from the reading list, I shouldn't be telling people how valuable they are until I apply the concepts. Yes, yes, apply things that you read first before offering advice. Is reflector functions other backdoors to the ego? Technically, yes. Color of the sky, yes. All right, folks, that's it. I'm out. It's good to see you all again, and glad to be back. And I'll see you guys next time. So Later.